Alright, good evening everyone. This is Nate, also known as Big MC Nate, back again for another tale from the Road King. Tonight's a bit different. For those of you who don't know, I do IT is my day job. I do have a full-time job where I do IT, networking, corporate infrastructure, stuff like that. One of these gloves are looking ratty. But on the side, I do get to help friends from time to time with their own IT quarrels. And tonight, I'm heading to a friend's place to do some switch configuration. He's not well versed in Cisco. I am, so I'm going to go over to lend a hand on the command line to get some switches, some Cisco 2960Ls on his network. Once they're on the network, he can take over with the web GUI. I just got to get them to that point. So I've got a light loadout tonight, but a loadout nonetheless, hence the bag. So I've got my laptop case, my regular hat, and then I actually have my rain gear and my rain gloves. There are some thunderstorms popping up around the DC Metro tonight. So I figured just in case I get stuck in one of those, I'll do the awkward dance and put on the rain gear. So I'm all zipped up. Yep, zip, 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 zip. And then I've got straps on the front put on, straps on the back put on, and the rear pillion seat straps secured. Whole bike's wobbling, that's how we did it right. Oh God. Oh man. After a full weekend of riding the Super Cub, this bike feels like it weighs a ton. Alright.
Alrighty, so now we are underway. We dropped the old visor down here. It's not too hateful. It's about 86 degrees and relatively low humidity. By relatively, I mean it's taking a while for my yakking to fog up the visor here. So I don't have anything lined up to talk about tonight, so we're just gonna see what rolls off the tongue, shall we? Alright, so today is August 26th. I believe I said that. This Saturday is the 31st. It's ending the month. And that is when this Harley goes in for service. If the dealership calls me back, because I need to modify the reservation, my goal is to get it there on the 31st. It needs a free hole change, which in Harley lingo is crankcase, transmission, and primary fluid. It needs a front engine mount. The twin cams are rubber mounted, and with that being the case, they have a rubber engine mount, and mine's collapsing. Hasn't ripped yet, but it's collapsing, as rubber does once it's 20-some years old. So the ride's been getting progressively rougher, and before it impacts the ride negatively, I'm getting it replaced. So that's this Saturday, which means a little day trip up to Gettysburg on Saturday. Partner and I will be up there all day. Probably visit some of the shopping malls while I patiently wait for my baby to get fixed. I also have a pair of bars from a 2021 Road King. The last year they made the standard Road King before they just made the Road King special. So I would like to swap them onto this one as well, just to get my arms a bit further back toward me, so the trip to Vermont is a bit more comfortable. My Vermont trip, I leave out of here September the 7th to go to Verona, New York. Then from Verona, New York, on the 8th, we go to Saranac Lake, New York. And then on the 9th, it sounds like we ride into Vermont proper. So I need to definitely make sure the bike is ready for that. That's going to be a sticking point, because something goes wrong with the bike that far from home, that's a problem. I've got all the major stuff sorted out that you can on a twin cam of this model year. And just as a reminder, this is a 2002 Harley-Davidson Road King. It is the FLHRI. It's The fuel injected, but not classic, no ABS. So I've got just about all the problem points licked on this that I can. I did the the mechanic did the cam chain tensioners. Then, it's how the cam chain tensioners done. The typical seal point, I think, is the transmission or the shifter fork seal or a primary seal. Somewhere a seal is leaking. It's where the shifter fork goes into the gearbox through the primary. There's a seal, 2 seals, and my primary is leaking a bit. Not enough to really cause concern, but enough that it's like, hey, it's weeping a bit. Bear this in mind. Not enough to warrant checking it between Phillips or between services, but just enough to be, hey, bear in the back of your mind, and keep this in the back of your mind for future reference. It'll eventually need doing. So that's going to wait till winter. The only thing I can think of that needs really done on this bike still is the compensator, I believe. The compensators were a weak spot on this drivetrain. Alright, Mr. Saturn, you're going to step it up. There you go. You found the skinny pedal on the right. We call that the accelerator. And a turn signal. 2 for 2. You're doing good today, sir. And drop the sunglasses down. So the compensator, I believe it's called in this. And then just seals. Typical seeps, typical weeps, typical leaks. $12-valve, 8-foot Cummins. The bed's not even rotted, but the bed's not the original. Cab corners are in good shape. I used to own a 2001 Dodge Ram with the 5.2 V8 and the 4-speed auto. It's my grandpa's. This is my late grandfather's Dodge Ram. Put a photo of it here if I have one readily available. I also had his 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee, but I definitely have more memories of his Dodge truck. Mainly the snafus we get into it with. He was notorious for hitting his garage. Every so often he'd haul long cargo, so he'd have wood in the back, like pressure treated lumber, or he'd have an oversized ladder or something. He always used to volunteer down at the church every Wednesday, and he was an electrician all of his life, so he provided his electrical services to the church on a volunteer basis when he retired on Wednesdays. So he used to haul this long ladder, one of them, it wasn't a folding ladder, it was an extension ladder, down to the church on Wednesdays, and of course he'd take the truck. And all too often I remember hammering out his garage door because, a surprise ram, got in front of me one day and hit the garage door. Yep, just here, plumb ran into it, or some other whimsical excuse. We knew Grandpa had hit his garage door again. And that was about the time a lot of us started questioning, Grandpa, just how well can you see? And he would never admit that he was having a hard time handling the truck or the Jeep. But all too often we would wrap up a day of work, whether over in the house in the garden or volunteering down to the church. We'd go to get in the truck, and he'd be like, "Hey, boy, you feel like driving? Sure, I'll chauffeur you around. I don't mind." I've always enjoyed driving, especially big vehicles. It's a very commanding presence on the road. But, looking back at it now as an adult, it's like, there is when he was admitting he couldn't see. And I didn't think anything of it because I just like driving. So I was none the wiser to what he was actually getting to. And I can't tell. Is my pack closed? It's zipped. Something's waving in the breeze. It's my vest. So I was none the wiser that he was bamboozling me into driving for him because Mustang, please don't go, please don't go, please don't go, please don't go. Okay, thank God you stopped. Whew. I didn't know if he was gonna stop there for a bit. I've had people jump that intersection before and scare the ever-loving bejesus out of me. But yeah, Grandpa would bamboozle me on the regular, God bless his soul. and get me to drive for him. There's no ill feelings. I'm glad he did, because it kept him mobile, it kept me mobile, it kept him and I going to do the things that we like to do. He very much liked a restaurant called Taco Daddy Cantina. It's a taco joint in a little town called Frederick. And he was a very modest gentleman, very well-respected gentleman. But, more than one time, I can very well recall him observing the waitresses wearing low-cut tops. And a saying that will never leave my head. It lives in my head rent-free. I'm like, Grandpa, you're a happily married man. And he responds, boy, I may be old, but I'm not dead. And that just about got my goat. Oh, man. I didn't know how to respond. I'm like, wait a minute. This is my grandpa. I never thought of him like this. Oh, good times. I miss those times. My grandmother, God bless her soul, she was fit to be tied too. She could be a very cantankerous person. I think that was a rebel. Nice. Yes, my grandmother was a very cantankerous person. She was the definition of my way or the highway. Again, I'm not saying this as a diss toward any of them, or toward either of them. They are a lovely couple. They were married for, I want to say, 62 years. And, squirrel. And, I'll pick up this train of thought here in a bit. Chugga, 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 chugga. Woo, woo. Yeah, Grandma. She was very one way. She was, and if you didn't have it her way, she'd be fit to be tied. She had some qualities that I've learned I'm not such a fan about. Some of her actions when I was little, my cousins were little growing up, that I'm not a very big fan about. She separated my cousin and I, or she at least drove a wedge between us, playing favorites. And I'm not here to air my dirty laundry, but I'm just speaking some matter of fact. But it definitely put a rift between my cousin and I growing up. We are very different people, but opposites also can get along. Now as we're older, we get along great, but as kids, it was like oil and water. And I learned my grandmother had a good bit to do with that, of which I'm not a fan of. This is all secondhand account from what my uncle and father and my cousin and I have all talked about. There's no hard feelings nowadays. He and I get along quite well, but it is worth mentioning that things were not always the case. That was not always the case. But I'm glad that we get along now. I just wish my family was closer. Once my grandparents passed away, my uncles moved down to North Carolina, and my parents and I stayed up here in the East Coast around D.C. So, I am happily residing in West Virginia. It's cheap and cheerful, and the people are pretty decent. I'm close enough to everything I need to be close to. I'm close enough to work, close enough to friends, family up here. Although most of my family that lives up here I haven't spoken to in ages. I always used to love cycling. Down there is the C&O Canal. I always used to love cycling down there. I would run from my hometown to Harpers Ferry and back and not even break a sweat. Nowadays, if I so much as look at a treadmill, I start breaking out in a nervous sweat. You slowed down and then you wanted to speed up again. This is another thing. I can tell when people aren't paying attention because they'll slow down, I'll go to pass them, then they realize I'm passing them, then they have this need to speed back up again. And he's distracted. I can see him looking at his phone. Again, Semi, why are you speeding up as I'm passing you? Stop it. People are not paying attention, I swear. It's annoying. I've read a lot of accident reports coming through the scanner Facebook page I pay attention to around here. There's a local scanner feed that dumps the events of the county onto their Facebook. Don't sit here and try to cut me off. No. That white caravan was trying to get up on me. Stay away. So now you can hit the gas? Jeez. Anyway, there's a local scanner page that dumps the contents of the wideband scanner, the local the E911 scanner, and there's been a lot of wrecks on this stretch of road with bikes, and it doesn't particularly fill me with confidence to bring the bike on this section of road. Waze has even been happy to inform me that this is a dangerous section of road, which I didn't know Waze did that. It hit me with like this road is like especially dangerous, or this road's been identified as especially something. I forget what the verbiage was or how it said it, but I'm like, that's dead. I don't like that. The humidity started to creep up on me in this helmet. Which I need, just purely based off of content creators alone, I'm looking at a Ruroc helmet, a Schuberth, and a Shoei, or a Shui, or however you pronounce it, helmet. I don't want to be in this lane. I need to get over one. This lane is my lane. This lane is your lane. This lane is my lane. Because I turned my turn signal on. But I don't know which one I want to do yet. I kind of want to go with the Rurocs. Just because they look cool. And they have cool venom, or cool, like, fang looking designs on them. Slight Moto has one that's, I think they call it Teeth or Grin or something. It's an older one. I don't think they make it anymore. It's just a different variation of like the Toothy Grin. But, I just think it looks so cool. Just so freaking epic. Alrighty. And I have made it to my destination. So this is where I shall bid you adieu for now. Until the next video, which I don't know when that'll be. I might do one. I'm thinking if I have any more commutes coming up. I don't know, I might have one. But definitely probably riding the bike up to Gettysburg here this weekend. So I bid you all farewell. I shall see you again in the next one. And if you enjoyed this content, please leave a comment and a like. If you liked it so much, drop a subscription my way. I'll be very glad to have you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.